My name is Munni. I started working here in 1988. I work from 5 in the morning to 9 at night. Some days, my hands ache so much that I only earn 40 rupees. I buy food for my kids since my husband doesn't provide for them.
Every poor person's experience is unique, but all over the world, poor people like Muni share common problems. Chief among them, insecurity, lack of opportunity, and powerlessness.
What can I do? I'm a poor woman. If I don't work, how do we live? I don't have a government job. If we stay in our village, we can't earn a living. In our village, there's only one crop each year.
While she works, Muni must also take care of her 3 children.
My husband says I am black and ugly, so he wants to marry someone with lighter skin. That's exactly what he says. He's working in a bicycle garage. He doesn't ask about the kids. I will look after my children, whether or not anyone cares about them. I'll see to it that they grow up. Taking care of my kids is what makes me happy.
Like the other women working in this outdoor brick factory in Bihar, India, Muni has little power or control over her life, and little opportunity to change it. Instead, she places her hope in her children.
I worry only about my children. If they want to study until they graduate, where will they get the money to live? I'll do whatever I can to get them an education.
Poor migrant workers like Muni are particularly vulnerable to factors beyond their control. Their future is uncertain, and their present insecure. One night, a fierce storm erupts, heralding the coming monsoon. The next morning, the camp is deserted. Muni, her children, and hundreds of other seasonal workers have vanished until next season.
This is from the grenades. A grenade hit it. It caught fire and it was all ruined. It was worth some real money before, and now just look at it. No good.
For the poor, insecurity comes in many forms. At 65, Ismail Zafo should be thinking about a peaceful retirement. Instead, the Bosnian farmer is dealing with the consequences of a terrible war.
Many were killed. Children, my brothers were killed, and many were injured, my relatives as well. There was a lot of trouble back and forth, and in the end, it was all for nothing.
Bosnia has now found peace of a sort, but Ismail Zafo's pre-war standard of living is lost forever.
Before the war, I was able to afford everything, as if I had worked in Germany for 50 years. Now I can't even breathe, not even stir. Before I could entertain 100 guests, and now not even one. I had everything in my own possession. Now I can't give anything to anyone. What I own is too little, even for me and my wife.
Zaffo says the elderly are the forgotten poor.
Who cares if you are alive or not? I was good enough to fight in the war. I spent half my time in the army and the other half in the civil defense. They burdened me like a mule. Now it doesn't amount to anything. Wherever I turn, they say I can't do anything. You're just good enough to die anyway. All right, I am. But give something to the young people.
Like many newly impoverished Bosnians, Ismail Zaffo yearns for the security of life before the war.
I lived like a lord before the war. A man in America wasn't my equal. And now, nobody cares. Absolutely nobody. Whether you live or die.
My son was killed. At the end of the war, I went to the government office to ask them to give me a shelter. They put me up here.
75-year-old Radinovi Odessa still lives in this refugee camp just a few miles away, but a world apart from her home just outside Bosnia's capital of Sarajevo.
I had so much wealth. Not many people had as much. I had cattle stalls, 17 meters long. I had a garage, a house, a large one. I had 2 summer kitchens. And all of that was left behind. All has been ruined. Now I am alone. How did I feel? I cried day and night. Today I still cry.
Odessa's home is now occupied by other refugees who fled a brutal wartime massacre.
I cannot return there alone. I cannot go there alone because it was so close to the front line. I lived there and I cannot go back. It is usually harder for old people. It's harder for me because there is no one to earn money for me. I had everything imaginable. Now I have nothing. Who is there to feel sorry for you? Who do I have here? Who do I have to feel sorry for me? Wherever you turn, no one wants to listen to you at all. To whom should I complain? Who do I have here? Who? Nobody.
Eu vim morar aqui porque meu barraco desabou.
I came here to live because my shack fell down. Once a classmate asked my address so we could do a group project. I gave it to him and he said, "Jesus, you live there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I didn't know." I was really embarrassed.
Maria das Graças Ferreira and her family live in a container.
Aqui que é a minha residência.
This is my residence.
Na minha casa
There's 7 people
mora
living in my
10
house.
pessoas.
When it's hot, it's like a furnace. When the weather changes, when it gets cold, it looks like a freezer in there. It gets really cold, and water starts dripping. It looks like it's raining inside. So, we're sleeping, and the drops fall on us. And the beds are wet in the morning. My children are totally embarrassed to live here. They're always asking me to move. They say, we can't live here. We can't go out and leave the kids home. It's too dangerous because there's a prison right next door. We're afraid of going out and there being an escape and the kids being here. The worst may happen.
Residents here say that living in containers only compounds their lack of opportunity.
There's no way we can go out to look for a job. Everywhere we go, they ask for proof of residence, which we don't have. They ask for a light bill, a water bill, and we don't have one to show. So we're practically indigent. Of everyone that lives here, only 4 are employed. The rest live off odd jobs.
Meeting basic needs such as sanitation and health is also difficult.
This is our bathroom. It's a public bathroom that everyone uses. Children mix with adults, women with men. We have an open-air sewer. I went to the municipality to ask for a sewage system, but they did nothing. They say they won't because this is temporary. But it's been temporary since I arrived. 1 year and 8 months ago. The kids have a lot of health problems. My son spent 29 days in an intensive care unit. We do the dishes here. Someone will come with a little bucket of urine, spill it in the toilet, and wash it in this sink. Then someone will come and brush his teeth here. Another will come with a basin to wash his underwear. This doesn't help us. At least we should have hygiene. We're poor, but we're not dogs.
Jednostavno, kad neko prođe ovdje i pogleda.
Você escolhe ser honesto ou você escolhe ser...
Não me acontecer, porque não é fácil criar 7 filhos sozinho.
Io gosto de pola, a pola o tiro no zašto.
Se isso é esse orgulho, eu sou uma pobre orgulhosa. Eu criei meus filhos com força, com garra, com dificuldade.
Poverty has 2 different definitions. Poverty of information is one kind of poverty. Poverty of materials is another kind of poverty.
Sugata Mitra heads research efforts at NIIT, a fast-growing Indian high-tech company. Mitra's passion is computer-based education, specifically aimed at poor people.
Removing what is increasingly being called the digital divide is an important issue, which means that everyone must have access. The good news is that the cost of access is already low and is continuously spiraling downwards.
Mitra recently launched an experiment called the Hole in the Wall. He took a high-speed computer connected to the internet and embedded it in a concrete wall separating his firm's New Delhi headquarters from an adjacent slum. Then, he watched who began to use it.
The slum has about 80 children in all sorts of age groups, of whom about 65 of them are between the ages of 6 and 13. And those are the kids who came there.
What Mitra discovered was, given access and opportunity, the children, most of whom had little education, could quickly teach themselves the rudiments of computer literacy.
Well, I watched for a while, and when they asked what it was, I told them, I don't know. So when they said, can we touch it? I said, it's on your side of the wall. So the rules say whatever is on their side of the wall, they can touch. So they touched it. And in about 5 minutes, they figured out that if they move their finger on the touchpad, the cursor moves. In another 15 minutes, they find out what a click is. And by the end of the day, they were browsing.
I learned it on my own. Some kids used to play with it, and I would watch them intentionally, so I learned it too. I like to play. It opens at 6 a.m., and after that till 9 p.m. we keep playing on it. All the kids near my house play with it.
It was a spiral of self-instruction, if I can put it that way. One child makes an accidental discovery. 3 children come and repeat that, saying, oh, that's cool. If 3 children repeat the same things, they make 3 other accidental discoveries. So that within the end of 2 weeks, they've got about as much instruction in their heads as they would have got in a classroom. The children are better at it, they always find the answers, and they reinvent the subject. They reinvent even the terms, because nobody taught them the words. So they don't call a cursor, they call it a sui, which is Hindi for needle. And they don't call the hourglass symbol because they've never seen an hourglass before. They call it the damaru, which is Shiva's drum, and it does look a bit like that.
But accessing information is not just child's play. It involves a host of issues of importance to the poor, from education to the environment, and from healthcare to human rights. The spread of information technology is changing societies around the world, and the implications for poor people are profound.
If we did give them access to information technology, I believe they would learn how to evaluate options a lot faster than any other method. And while I'm not going to teach them anything else, at least I'll equip them to be able to figure out the difference between right and wrong, truth and lies, or at least be able to analyze a situation and decide for themselves what they ought to do.
Eu cheguei em 1969.
I arrived here in 1969.
Era só matagal.
It was just bush. There was no street, no nothing, just the bush.
Falta piso, você sabe muito bem que está faltando piso.
Dervolino Souza heads a community group in Via Junqueira, another Brazilian favela.
I became the leader because I was one of the first inhabitants. Then we started getting organized. The battle was hard. It wasn't easy. I had to organize the families that were arriving and see how we would get water and energy.
Meeting basic material needs like water and energy is critical. Even more basic, however, is the land itself.
The 185 families living here form a nucleus. I am a member of the board that organizes them. The families are already living in their lots, which have been measured, and each family has its own. Now we just need to legalize the titles to the land. We are already negotiating with the municipality so that they give the families a 90-year lease. It is a long battle. You need to have a lot of courage. Not all the residents believe in our work here.
But Dervelino Souza and others in his community are believers and fighters.
The advice I give and have always given is for us to go out and fight. Go and fight. If you fight, you can leave misery. If you relax, you will never leave misery, because help doesn't fall from heaven. And you won't get anything easily. Always fighting. This fight is to go out with God and do something. It doesn't just happen.
In Bosnia, conflict within households has increased as a result of increased conflict within society.
I came here because of my husband's violence. We were married for 20 years.
The Medica Center for Therapy for Women provides assistance to Bosnian women traumatized by violence.
When we take into account the poverty to which the entire Bosnian society is subjected, it is clear that most people are under constant stress. We all lost patience in this war. We all react rashly, and this has an impact on families. Communication has been impaired, and this increases aggression and domestic violence.
I had to leave everything. I was forced to, because I was beaten a lot. He beat me up once so badly that my lips split, and I had to get stitches.
In response to the issue of domestic violence, Brazil has created female police stations, staffed by women, exclusively for women.
Women were really ashamed to go to the police, who are usually men, and explained that they were beaten by their husbands or were raped. So I believe that the women's police stations were created for this reason, so people could open up and not be afraid to explain their real problem.
Although domestic violence affects all classes, poor victims are more likely to require state services.
A poor person, a poor woman, who doesn't have the financial means to look for a private doctor, a private lawyer, a private therapist, what is she to do? She will look to the public services, among them the police. We of the women's police refer her to the health department, to the legal department, for her to have all the services that a rich person would have to pay for.
In my opinion, there is no government in Bihar.
Dr. Dinesh Sarangi is a unique politician.
The government machinery is totally defunct everywhere, in a mess.
Like many of his constituents, Dr. Sarangi believes that a new form of decision-making is required to combat poverty in India.
unless the villagers are empowered, unless they are given power to decide their destiny, so long as this centralized system is there, definitely they are not going to get justice.
While Dr. Sarangi calls for more people power in India's public institutions, others, working with the non-governmental organization Nidan, empower the poor by connecting them to the private sector. Sheila Devi lives in this slum in downtown Patna, the capital of Bihar. 3 years ago, with the help of Nidan, she and a group of other women were able to obtain a small loan to create a shop in the back of Devi's home.
I do business in food grains, spices, and also biscuits.
The microloan came from India's second largest bank, the Bank of Baroda. Bilal, chief manager of the Patna branch, explains
that the cost of servicing these accounts is very less, in the sense that we are associated with the NGO Nidan, who are helping us in identification of the prospective borrowers. At the same time, they are also helping us in making recovery on due dates.
Poor women like Sheila Devi are eminently bankable, says Lal's colleague Subhas Chandra.
You see, the maxim, poor is bankable, is nowhere exhibited better than the self-help group schemes. Because one, bankable is in the sense that poor are honest people. They don't know how to cheat. Secondly, that bankable means even the financing, the microcredit is a viable scheme for financing the poor people, because they come up with the interest. It's not that it's just a mere financing on zero interest. They also pay interest, and they pay it well. The repayment schedules have been adhered to.
Now Devi is going back to the bank to ask for another larger loan to expand her business. And prospects look good.
पैसा ले जाते पूंजी में लगाते हैं, बिजनेस में लगाते हैं, करना चाहते हैं कि जे
When I get the loan money,
4 मरते हो जाएगा हम लोग के
I use it to expand the business.
कि जे और ये हुए पैसा कि जे
We make a profit from the money that goes into the business. I want to use this money to make things better for my children and my business and in building my house.
कुछ बनावे कुछ कर.
Cheguei em 73.
I arrived here in 1973. I worked as a maid in private homes and later got a job with a textile company. I found a boyfriend and married him and left my job. I was married 7 years when my husband died.
Bom dia.
At 45, Angelina Nunez de Oliveira is the mother of 7. Her oldest son is 26, and she has a 5-year-old grandson.
It was a struggle to raise my kids, especially hearing your child say, "Mom, I need clothes. I want a pair of shoes. I want food." And you must turn around and say, "There is none."
Angelina lives just a few miles from Sao Paulo's bustling downtown. Yet proximity to this global hub of communications, business, and technology has little benefit or meaning to her. In fact, it sometimes simply makes her problems worse.
Here in the slum, there are a lot of drugs. There always have been, and we have nothing against it. Because those who use drugs the most are not the people who live in the slum, but those who come from the outside looking for them.
Angelina's eldest son, Fabio.
You can either choose to be honest or to be a bandit. You are either a worker or a robber. Since there are drugs right around the corner, it is easy to choose. You see it, it's right there.
I lost my daughter. She was raped and murdered when she was 4 years and 8 months. It was a great shock. I thought I would go mad, that I would disappear. I wanted to vanish, but then I would look at my kids and think of them. I would think how my children needed me. Thank God the church gave me a lot of strength and I overcame all of this. I suffered a lot, but I stuck with God and He gave me the strength to overcome and continue raising my other kids.
People who live in the slum help each other. If you need anything, they help you. If you don't have a telephone, they let you use theirs, or will give you messages. One helps the other. In my opinion, the government is responsible for poverty. They're not interested in improving living conditions. There's even a little song that goes, "The rich climb up and the poor go down."
Fabio's distrust of the government is typical of residents of favelas like Sacadura Cabral, where poor people must fight long and hard to get local officials to respond to their needs.
Since 1980, I have been active in neighborhood meetings and committees. Many people have given up participating, but I haven't.
Darzino Carlos de Oliveira is president of Angelina's Neighborhood Association.
Tempo atrás, ainda não era nem associação, era uma comissão de moradores com reivindicações.
When we started a while back, this wasn't even an association.
Dos primeiros exemplos que deu certo.
We were just a committee that made lists and requests. Our first victory was getting action on our request to have sewers put in on Luis de Camões Street back in 1990.
A more recent victory came with the start of construction of permanent housing for residents of Sacadura Cabral.
My house will be beautiful. You've been to where I live. It's a shack.
Angelina's neighbor, Hilda Silva.
We will be out of the floods, away from the rats and cockroaches. You know what it's like. And we'll have a pretty new house, like those on the other side. I think all the residents of Sacadura will be happy in their pretty houses, no matter how small they may be. There are the poor, and there are the miserable. We are the poor. But we are humble poor who are fighting to rise, and tomorrow we will be citizens with an address. And we'll be able to write letters to any part of the world. We'll have a real address with a zip code of our street. So I don't consider myself poor, only half poor.
Education is another key concern of the community.
This project behind me is the Citizen Child Project, which provides kids with school and home activities to keep them off the streets. It's a preventative program.
Here in Sacadura Cabral, we work with around 350 to 400 children. Their greatest interest is in sports, but computers and capoeira are also popular.
The Citizen Child Project has helped a lot. I had a son who was a rebel. He wanted me to pay for capoeira lessons, but I couldn't afford it. When the project started, he was able to take up capoeira, and he changed a lot.
Despite the considerable odds against her, Angelina's resilient spirit and reliance on community involvement have taken her to a place of hope and hard-earned pride.
It's not easy to raise 7 children alone. It's not easy. If this is pride, then I am a proud, poor person. I raised my kids with strength, courage, dignity, without stealing, without letting them steal, teaching them what life is about. Being poor is all this.
The poor lead precarious lives. Low-paying, dangerous, and back-breaking work for low wages is often the best they can hope for.
I have children. I have to feed them. If they fall ill, how can I take care of them if there is no work? We need work.
And despite an increasingly interconnected, globalized economy, spurred by rapid technological change and the spread of free markets, many poor people say they are now worse off, have fewer opportunities, and less power than in the past.
I would be happiest, even if I were to die tomorrow, if at least one of my children were able to find a job.
The poor lead insecure lives. War and ethnic conflict affect them greatly, and their social safety nets are frayed.
Before the war, I had a normal life. Now, I'm just trying to survive.
We've been forgotten by the whole world, and it hurts so much.
And when crisis strikes, the poor stand to lose what little they possess.
I cannot go back, so now I ended up here. I have to clean, I have to work, I have to swallow anything anyone says. In my old age, why is that?
What will the government do for us? Poor people and workers are roaming around aimlessly for food and money, and the government gives them nothing. They only say that they will give, but they never give anything.
The rest of the world can learn from the poor. Despite their wide-ranging problems, they have both the capacity and the right to offer solutions, and they have voices that deserve to be heard. Listen to the voices of the poor.
We want housing. We don't want anything for free. We want to work and pay for it, so that one day we have the title to the land and say, this is mine. I worked and paid for it.
What else can a man ask for? You need enough to eat and drink. You need a good house to live in.
Being poor is very sad. And what makes me more sad is that the people in charge make it worse every day.
To live well is to have hope and to fight for something. Now I don't even know whom to fight.
I was born poor, and I'm still poor. That's all. But I'm not ashamed. I fight to survive, and am ashamed of nothing. Wherever I go, wherever I am never ashamed, because what really matters is our dignity. That's all. And fighting to have a better life.